and pop my webcam back on too, just to give some kind of a, personal illusion. All right, so this will probably be pretty quick. There's a few changes for the 2021-2022 season. But I just want to give a brief overview of the WPC winter weather desk operations. Again, we haven't had to use them recently, but they're good resources to have in case of a upcoming winter storm. So brief outline, just give an overview of the winter weather desk, which Dan Peterson retired. So now Tony Fracasso, I believe, is now the winter weather lead at WPC. And so I'll just give a brief overview of like their methodologies, the timeline for products, and when like the window for collaboration we have with them. And then they're like the products available, including the Winter Storm Outlook, key messages, the WSSI. New this year is a probabilistic WSSI, which I will show example of later. And then the usual like changes in their ensemble members for their PWPF, which is not that many this year. And so I'll just jump into it. Again, as you know, they have both the internal and public page. And if you guys haven't visited their internal page in a while, I recommend it. They've added quite a few new links to it. And it's a great like one-stop shop for, a lot of the WPC's guidance, models, things like that is available on their internal site. The username and passwords on our intranet under that WPC page, which is just WWD and then passwords, 2 exclamation points, WWD, 2 exclamation points. So it's pretty simple, but it is a great resource. And so on there you can see, deterministic forecasts, SLR graphics. You also have links to the Winter Storm Outlook, the Winter Storm Severity Index. And then my favorite, honestly, is the Super Ensemble Viewer and Plumes, to kind of give you a look at the, like, more details into their, PWPF models. And so to access the Super Ensemble stuff, you need your NOAA login, and it's located on the right-hand side amongst all their other links on their page. And again, this is like all their, all the ensembles they use. You can hover over each individual one. You've got, the means, you've got NDFD, and this is even active during like summer. They use QPF, snow, and ice in here. So I've gone in here just to look at, the QPF ensembles just for fun, but it's a good resource to have. And then kind of like the SPC SREF plume page, there's also, WC's page for all their ensemble members. So again, I like checking this out, even if it's just for QPF, but also there for snow and ice. And this is something that I don't believe they've had before. I just fell over it this year, and they might have mentioned in their presentation, but it's a pre-prototype days 4 through 7 snowfall prob. So again, linked on their internal site, so not for external use, but it kind of emulates their probabilistic snowfall probs, but for the extended range. So days 4 through 7, and it mostly uses the European ensemble mean, but again, it has, the probability of anywhere from an inch of snow to greater than 2 feet. You have the 5th percentile, 50th, so there's a lot of information here. Again, it's a pre-prototype, so it's definitely a work in progress, but again, another thing that could be helpful for looking at a potential event on the horizon. So again, you find this on the internal site. And then, of course, they have their public webpage that has their, the public deterministic forecast for day 1 to 3. You have the extended range probability for over 1/4 of an inch liquid equivalent. Your ensemble surface load tracks, which I don't believe is linked on our public winter page anymore, but still available on WPC's page. And then, of course, their heavy snow, freezing rain discussion. So this link is also available on our intranet. So I'm not going to go into this in too much detail. because they haven't really changed much the last couple years, but you know, they compose their snow and freezing rain using the QPF from their medium range desk, or near term and medium range. They use their P-type from their decision tree, which will be on the next slide. And then they apply the snow to liquid ratio, it's heavily based on NBM. I think the current now is 1.13 times the version 4 of NBM. And then of course WPC can make post edits. And they did mention that, you know, because they kind of ask us to use their snow ratio when doing our forecast to maintain like consistency between offices, but they do encourage coordination. So you can see their SLR graphics in GFE. It's shared in ISC, and so you know you can check out the SLRs, and if you want to tweak some way, if you don't think it's reasonable, you know, you can chat up WPC, see what they think, and you can coordinate on any edits for that. Because of course that goes right into their snow and ice accumulations, which is just based on their QPF and then the pot grids and SLR, ILR. So this is just, I think I have this linked online, but this is just their decision tree algorithm to determine pot sleet, pot snow, and pot freezing rain, and pot rain, of course. So it just uses the temperatures at given heights and uses that to just spit out their P-types. For the winter weather desk forecast product timelines, not too much change. The only things I'll note here is there is a gap between 10 and 11Z where there is no winter weather desk personnel. They did that to give them more, I guess, coverage in the evening. So, of course, you can still chat up WPC, and one of the other, like the lead will chat with us. It won't be the winter desk. But the main time for coordination with WPC will be between 6 and 8Z in the overnight, and then 18 to 20 in the afternoon. So that would be after they've sent their, you know, QPF, they've sent their winter storm outlook, their snow grids. So all their preliminary stuff will be available in GFE. We have, I believe it shows in our winter weather element group. There's also the prob snow winter weather element group. And so, you know, this 2-hour window is when you want to chat with WPC, you know, change anything. You can also pick their brain on what guidance they feel is doing best, or what ones they're using, things like that. And then their final stuff sent by 8:30Z and 20:30Z, and that's when it's sent to the public web pages. Their discussion's done. So, you know, that's it for the shift. But again, this is also online, but this is their WW desk for, I guess, for the next few months. So again, as most of you remember, I think it's Winter Storm Collaborator or something like that. It's now a legacy product. I mean, the link's still available on their internal site, but since they've been doing the Winter Storm Outlook for a few years now, the Collaborator's it's kind of almost been retired practically. So the Winter Storm Outlook's it's kind of the main resource for the chance of exceeding your winter storm warning criteria and ice storm warning criteria. So it uses their super ensemble. The winter storm outlook for our area is available under the winter weather element group. There's 2 grids, the WSO snow NC and WSO ice NC for the next 4 days. Right now, the colors will be good, but for some reason it shows no data. So I know Matt's trying to pick someone's brain to figure out what bug that is, but you can still see the colors. And again, we don't have anything on at least the next week or so, so we'll see how that turns out. And again, last year they added this purple contour for 80% chance of exceeding your watch criteria. So available in GFE, and it's also available on their public website. Technically, the WSO is considered experimental still, but like I said, it's the main go-to product for kind of watch collaboration. So in that, I think it was like 6 to 8Z and 18 to 20Z, that's when you can collaborate on the windstorm outlook, because the graphics do make it to the public. But the web page has, the next 4 days for individual days. You can see snow and freezing rain. You can zoom into the CWA. There's a lot of customizations on this. You could use it for briefings, as long as you can explain it well. But again, this is, available for use online and internally in GFE. And so in the past, WPCs kind of used this 50% contour in the winter storm outlook with no headlines to initiate calls, but they've lowered that this year to, if the WSO shows percentages over 20% with no headlines, they've kind of said that they'll pay more attention. So they're not going to necessarily issue a banner every time, but they found that like watches and warnings were put up when the probabilities were lower than 50%, so they kind of wanted to lower their threshold. So you might get a NIMNAT when our WSOs are that low, and again, it's going to continue being done via Google Meets. And I also have, this is the direct phone line to the winter weather desk for WPC. I also have this linked on the intranet, and of course they're free to chat on AWIPS chat. But I just wanted to bring up that, yeah, WWD will pay more attention if we have just a 20% chance of meeting our criteria. Which honestly, if we hit 20%, we're going to start paying real close attention too. Key messages. I believe they did this last year and maybe the year before that as well. But it's kind of, to me, it rings bells of like the Hurricane Center. So it's going to highlight like the most essential information for upcoming major winter storms. And so I think the criteria, 500-mile swath of probabilities over 30% with a major metro area. Otherwise, it's going to be 50% chance. So these key messages are collaborated between WPC and the ROC. We can provide input to either the ROC or chat of WPC, but it's mostly going to be like a national coordination. And the key messages will be available in WPC's heavy snow and ice discussion. And I'm pretty sure ROC will also be sharing, kind of images like this that are shown. But again, we haven't seen anything in a while, so it'll be interesting to see how this works out if we have a storm in the southeast. Also new for this year, that if there's a ground blizzard or large snow squall, it kind of negates this requirement. But again, there's a lot of leeway here. So I'll move on to the Winter Storm Severity Index, which I've mentioned the last couple of years, but because it is now operational, and they're making a lot of good headway with this. But it's used to provide a classification for the overall expected severity, so like limited impacts, moderate, extreme, things like that. So summarizes the multiple impacts, which I'll review, I think, next slide. To kind of give you the maximum impact based on like 6 different components. I know they're working on adding a couple as well. So it's a 72-hour forecast where you can see each individual day, and the data comes straight from our grids. It doesn't use WPC's ensembles. It uses our grids and then looks for certain criteria to reach, snow amounts, snow load, things like that. And it updates every 2 hours. So this is the main web page. And again, looks a lot like the WSO page. So you got the clickable tabs for each day. You can print it out for briefings, which would be pretty useful if we're expecting a big event in our area, because it also has like listing of the impacts, so limited impacts, minor, all the way to extensive, widespread property damage. And so again, the WSSI is based on 6 different criteria. So you got the snow amount, snow load, ice accumulation, flash freeze, blowing snow, and ground blizzard. And so the max of any of these 6 will show up on the main WSSI, but you can look into each of these individually on the web page as well to kind of see what's giving, what's going to be the most impactful for the event. And the newest version for this year, they have an experimental day 4 added to the WSSI. which also includes a composite for day 1 through 4. There's a new rolling 24-hour display, so every 6 hours, like, it has a rolling 24-hour window. I guess to kind of give more breakout for storms that, don't follow the 0Z to 0Z time window. And then they also have this at the top of the page. The additional information includes a video on it. If anyone's interested in WSSI, there's also a CLC presentation. I think it's about 20 minutes on like how this works, how it's calculated, things like that. Because again, it can be pretty useful for big events. You can retrieve static images. Again, these are also linked on our public web page. It's linked on our GIS situational awareness page. I believe our like image directory, things like that. So we have access to these days 1 through 3, WSSI for ILM. I believe Josh Weiss had a hand in creating these static images for the winter weather desk, and they're updated 5 times a day. So you can do it based on overall or individual threats. But again, this would be great for briefings if we're expecting a winter event. So keep an eye on these. And not going to go, it just, honestly, the main purposes, of course, is to provide situational awareness and then enhance communication, like what the threat level is going to be like for upcoming storms for partners and such. So great DSS. And as I mentioned to start, this is the probabilistic WSSI that's experimental. So again, it almost the same components: snow amount, load, blowing, and then ice cube / freeze. I think blizzard's the one that's missing. So it's kind of the probability of exceeding a certain threat. So it's kind of like twofold. So you can select your impact type here, so limited, minor, moderate, and then it gives you the chance of exceeding that threat level. So again, for overall or for each individual impacts. And this goes out to day 7. So you can check like a medium range, what's your chances of getting like a moderate impact winter event for our area, things like that. The input for this probabilistic one is from the WPC ensemble. It's not from NDFD, because again, it has to go through day 7, and to calculate the probabilities, it's using all your ensemble members. And this is linked on the WWD internal page. So again, something to keep an eye on, but this could prove useful. We'll see how it works. To kind of look at medium range chances of getting a storm here. And not going to go too much into this. The Super Ensemble for this year, they removed another SREF member, and they added HER, CMC, and FE3. I think they also got rid of another NMMB member as well. So, but it's still at 60 members for days 1 through 3 and day 4, which is mostly the main global models, of course. I shared this last year. This is the snowband probability prototype page. It's linked on our winter intranet. So it just kind of, it's areas of the QPF exceeding a certain threshold that's marked as snow to kind of give an idea of where heavy snow bands might set up. I think it goes out a couple days, but it's based on, I believe, SREF and CAMS. So again, I don't know if it'll be something that we use for our area, but it's a good resource to have. Let me go back. All right, so I'm not going to go over this either, but yeah, so again, WPC has a lot of tools available. Again, I recommend checking out their internal page just for, just because a lot of good links on there just to check out if we have, I think, like lake effect snow is expected in the New York area, so there should be something up there. I do also want to mention, I didn't include a slide on this, that they're currently doing an experiment in, I think, a couple of Northeast offices and Western offices that WPC is kind of going to try out what SPC does with tornado watches, where WPC creates kind of like, I don't want to call it like preliminary watch grids to send to the WFOs, and then WSOs can like send out the watch, initiate the watch, things like that. So kind of like we do with SPC when it comes to tornado and severe weather watches, that we collaborate with them with which counties, and then they send us the grids. So I know WPC is trying that out with a couple of, I think there's like 4 or 5 offices that they're testing it with this season, where they collaborate on the watch, WPC creates it, sends it, and then WFO initiates it. Because I know that that's kind of like the long-term goal, is they want, like they're looking at WPC taking on more of a role when it comes to watch issuances. So we'll see how that test goes, see what it means for our area, or how long it takes for that to become a national thing. And so that's all I had for WPC. This is a link to, I also linked this online, but this is a link to the YouTube video of, their entire update. So, anyone got any questions?